But then he sees, he was trying to save him because all these guys are coming in. This crew is coming in to kill all three of them basically now. And then there's a funny exchange where he says, you tried to kill me. And he says, I didn't know if I would get a shot, I might as well make that one count. And then all of a sudden it turns into an insane action scene again. Where there's just guys like running into the house, like jumping through the windows and shit just to get shot up. Ah Zhang has like this full arsenal. Machine guns and tons of pistols and shotguns and everything, and he tells Lee to take her out, or take, Jenny and get her out of the house. The guys just keep coming. It's like a video game.
Pretty much, yeah.
And there's a scene where they roll up in the cars, and these dudes like jump out of the car and like hit the ground like rolling before the car even stops. Which is funny because I think they get shot up immediately. They don't even get a chance to like pop up off the ground. They just get shot. But it's an insane action scene. The amount of ammunition, I said 20,000 rounds, that gets fired. The house gets completely fucking shredded. He must kill about 30 guys between him and Lee. And there's still dudes coming. Like, they managed to get away. But there's still like a bunch of guys after him. And then you get to no, you don't get to the climax of the church. You get to, say, going to Hoy's place in order to get the money. He wants the money that was owed on the job.
Mm-hmm.
And by that point in time, those guys, he knows that it's basically a suicide mission. It's not necessarily him trying to get the money as it is him going to try to take out Hoy so that Ah Zhang and Jenny can escape. And he shoots Hoy, and it turns out Hoy had a bulletproof vest on.
Mm-hmm.
But he takes out like a bunch of other guys before he does that. And then Hoy pops up, and he sticks the gun in his face and gives him that same little speech that Ah Zhang gave him about keeping one in the chamber, just in case. But then he pulls the trigger and it's empty. And he just gets the shit beat out of him. Gets shot. And then manages to escape.
Yeah, because he ends up grabbing someone else's gun. Like from I think it's like a dead body.
Yeah.
And he just kills everybody except for Hoy.
Yeah, he misses Hoy.
But yeah, he's all swollen and messed up. But he gets the money.
He gets the money. He manages to get to the church to give him the money. And then before he shows up, Lee and Ah Zhang are talking and about what to do. At that point in time, Jenny's completely blind because she can't see all the light that's in the church from all the candles. They even like hold the candles in front of her eyes, and there's really no reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's clear that her eyesight is terrible right now. She can't see. She's blind. She needs the surgery, or else she's going to remain blind. And the surgery is expensive and hard to get, and there's a big waiting list. I think the doctor even says at one point, like, you're better off trying to go overseas. She's tried to talk to the doctors here, and we can't do it for you here because there's too many people ahead of you on the list. So they need to get her. I think they're America, I think, is the destination that they're going to go to get her the surgery. So definitely needs the money. But there's this conversation between Ah Zhang and Lee after the shootout at the house where they're by like the river and they're talking, and then that's when it's kind of like, more or less like the same, like we could be friends, except we're on opposite sides.
Like two sides of the same coin type of deal.
Yeah, and then that's where he talks about, like, there's no honor in this anymore. He's told Jenny that he wants to this is it. He's done with it. Unfortunately, the people show up at the beach house. He has to get back into it. And now at the church, they're going to show up at the church. He has to get back into it. But he was going to end all that for her. He wanted to take care of her. Felt the remorse for what he had done that ended up blinding her.
Mm-hmm.
So and then it kind of shows Lee exactly who he is, and then Lee kind of throws in with him at that point in order to protect Jenny and in order to fight off this crew of guys that are coming to kill him. And so there's the moments in the church where they're gearing up and they're getting ready, and Ah Jong tells him, "Hey, if something happens to me, I want you to donate my corneas to her. Make sure that she gets the surgery that she needs. You can use my eyes if something happens." And so Lee says, "Yeah, okay." So now you get to the climax at the church, which is completely batshit again, because all those dudes in the crew show up. His friend gets shot, and his friend is dying, and he wants Ah Jong to do the right thing and have the honor enough to kill him instead of letting him just die. So he does it, but you can tell that he's really upset about having to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And really mad that this crew and Hoy made him have to kill his friend, basically. So him and Lee, they're completely geared up, and it's just this nutso action. I don't even know how best to describe it. It's just chaos for 15 minutes, maybe 10. But there are so many dudes getting rushing in, getting shot the fuck up. Ah Jong gets shot a couple of times. Lee takes a shot. But it's crazy. The whole church is blowing apart. All the doves are flying. It ends with Lee chasing down the main henchman. Almost looks like he's gonna kill him, but I guess he leaves him alive. Hoy grabs Jenny. Jenny and the priest took off.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hoy managed to run into him, kills the priest, unfortunately, and grabs Jenny, and comes out and tells Ah Jong and Lee to put their weapons down. Lee grabs the main henchman and says, if you don't put your weapons down, I'll shoot this guy. But Hoy doesn't care. He shoots the guy anyways.
He's like, now what are you gonna do?
So he says, hey, you guys drop the guns. So they're gonna do it. Lee manages to get Ah Jong's attention enough to show him that there's a gun behind his back. So they're ready to kill him. And there's this standoff, which is, classic John Woo stuff. And then they both go down. Ah Jong grabs the gun, fires. I think he hits him a couple of times, but Hoy returns fire quite a lot and manages to shoot Ah Jong a few times and ends up, unfortunately, shooting him in the eyes.
Both eyes?
Yeah.
Fuck.
He takes off. Lee takes off after him, and there's this really depressing scene of Ah Jong and Jenny calling out for each other, but both of them are now completely blind and they're just crawling, and they end up passing each other as they crawl looking for the other. And unfortunately, Ah Jong succumbs to his wounds and dies, and Jenny still is just crying out for him, looking for him. Crawling away, basically. And then Lee chases down Hoy, and by then the cops have shown up, and Hoy is, oh, I surrender. He wants to be taken alive, but Lee was not having it. So he kills Hoy in front of everyone, and then, the cops arrest him. And that's the end of the movie, and it's such a downer ending.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And the reason it was such a downer ending is because there was a scene after the shootout at the church of Jenny waiting at the airport and Lee meeting up with her to take her to America to get a cornea transplant and restore her sight. But Salier's schedule wasn't going to work out because she had a really tight shooting schedule on the film, and it wasn't going to work out. She wasn't available. So they just end with like that flashback shot of Ah Zhang playing the harmonica looking at the church. So it ends on that real downer of her being completely blind, searching for Ah Zhang, who's now dead, both of his eyes shot out, and Lee in custody for killing Hoy. But it almost works better that way, instead of having the happy ending. There is an awesome shot I should mention of Lee and Ah Zhang like walking out of the church.
Oh yeah.
Like they're all bloodied up. Lee's got a white shirt on. I'm pretty convinced that the only reason Ah Zhang is wearing a white suit is so you can see all the blood all over it. But there's a pretty rad shot of the two of them just striding out of the church, like with guns in their hands, like ready to
when they slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then it doesn't last too long. It's like this real kind of cool shot, and then it's like chaos again.
I think that's like there's different posters and cover arts for the movie, and I think that is one of them is when the two of them strolling out of the church all bloodied up. I think the cover art on the DVD that I used to have was the two of them holding the guns on each other in Jenny's apartment, and the one that I have on the front of the Blu-ray now is Ah Zhang in his apartment. When the guys come in and he shoots him, and he like almost Taxi Driver style, like has the little smaller caliber gun like come out of his sleeve.
Yeah,
and he's like shooting the guy that comes in through the door. That's the cover art is him popping the guy with that little small gun. They release it in Taiwan in March of '89. That's a longer cut. That's longer by about 20 minutes or so. Wu cuts it down to 110, 107, whatever it is now, and feels that this is a much stronger cut, and this is the one that is released in Hong Kong, which I think came out in July.
Have you seen that other cut?
I have not. The only one I've ever seen is this cut, and I don't know if that's available, like the longer cut. I think that was Hark's cut, and then Wu cuts it down and feels that this is the superior cut of his film, which I can't argue with. I mean, 107 minutes, 110 minutes, whatever it runs, is a pretty good runtime
for what the movie's trying to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You said it's not an immediate success in Hong Kong because of the Tiananmen Square massacre, which happens just the month before that this movie gets released. I don't know if you know that, if any of your listeners are familiar with that. That was big fucking news at the time. I know that's before you were. That was June of '89, so you weren't even born yet. But I don't know if you know what that was about. And
was something to do with some activists? Or?
Yeah, they were protesting for stuff like freer speech and more access, because China at the time still is under communist rule, and they were in the square for months. And sometime around like early June, like martial law had been declared at one point, and then sometime in early June, they decided to go in and suppress it with the army, and a lot of people were killed. There's a very famous shot of the guy standing in front of the tank out in the square. But the army came in to suppress that protest, and a lot of civilians ended up losing their lives in that. So a very real world tragedy happens, and then you have a movie that's like excessively violent coming out around that time. So I could see why a lot of